You guys can hear me now, can't you?
Yes.
What? Hello.
Now we're cooking with Jess.
Jeff, where are you? We can't hear you.
The one time I don't hit test my audio, I look and it's connected to this computer microphone instead of my actual microphone. So I'll put this back in the stand because I'm an idiot.
Well, you'll fit right in.
Okay. I'm just going to make a real quick point. We must be getting better at this because we got another guy here that's got a voice for this.
Yeah, man.
We had a guy on last week from a show called the Fact Hunter.
Yep.
Named George Hobb, and the guy had a voice for broadcasting. You got a pretty good one there too, I'd say.
I've got a voice and a face for radio.
Exactly. So I guess we'll start. Welcome back, all 30 of you, to the Friends of Zeus podcast. I'm Zeus. To my left is Mike. We got Jason. Can you raise your hand, Mike? Jason? Okay. And we got a guest here, Mr. Jeff. Can you say it? Macolino?
Macolino.
Macolino. Close enough for radio.
Yeah.
This is episode 51. You can find us on the Friends of Zeus podcast on Facebook, as well as if you look it up on YouTube, you'll find it. It's on the Giants Jack channel. And as always, we're slowly moving on to Spotify. We got a couple other things we're testing the waters on out there. So I had an idea. I had been talking back and forth with Jeff here. And is it Jeff or Hefe?
We can go with Jeff.
Like Hefe.
We can do the English version.
Okay, fantastic.
Nice.
Where are you located, by the way?
St. Petersburg, Florida.
Nice.
No shit. Jordan Park, boys. I used to live in Palm Harbor.
Oh, damn. Yeah, same county.
I lived in Largo off of Almerton. I lived in Kenneth City. You know Kenneth City?
Yeah, of course.
Home of Terry Schiavo.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's a blast from the past.
Wow,
yeah,
man.
my mom actually worked in the nursing home that she was in. She's a nurse. Yeah. So Jeff here, I went to this.
Is she a vegetarian or?
Who, Terry Schiavo? No.
Poor
Terry's just the vegetable. I'm sorry, we're woke. I'm waiting for the time where I can't talk about people that have shriveled up dried brains inside their heads. But
how do you think she's doing these days?
Wow, that's crazy, man. You're probably much younger than me. I went to Pinellas Park High School.
Most likely.
Dunedin High School. You know all the places.
Oh yeah.
So Jeff here, I bumped into him on, and here it's going to come now because the name of the website is quite misleading. It's called Matchmaker FM. And I saw Jeff and I was like, hi.
I thought we were having cyber sex tonight. I'm kind of confused at all the other guys.
Oh, we are.
Hold on. So I was looking up comedians. I saw Jeff. He was doing some wacky shit. I decided, hey, let's get some people on here. And we talk back and forth. He kind of, meets up with our kind of political leanings and all. But, and if, of course, Jeff, everything goes well, we'd sure like to have you back on. We like to have a guest on every once in a while. But tonight we wanted to kind of, he's in, what would you call an aspiring stand-up comedian?
Yeah, we can go with that.
So I've always been interested in it. Jason and I have talked about it in the past about kind of figuring out, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. I'm pretty sure it's like 5 minutes at first. And then
usually
if you don't get the laser for a while, then you get to move up. You guys are all familiar with Jack. I know you're familiar with the laser.
Mike? No, I don't know what that means.
So like if they still do it, like when you're one of the front guys, the warm-up guy, if you're shit in the bed, they'll point a laser pointer at you so you know to get the fuck off stage.
Oh, they don't use the hook anymore, huh?
No, there are too many injuries.
Oh, there you go.
Only if you really refuse to get off stage.
Does the laser pointer, does that go back to like the vaudeville days? When they would
I
use
don't think so.
laser pointers?
Actually, it was a big magnifying glass, and they could only do the shows during the day.
Okay, just curious.
Hey, real quick, you guys do this by video, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so have you guys heard about the McDonald's by land, air, and sea thing?
Yes.
We're supposed to combine 3 things.
Yeah.
So I ordered that, and I want to show you how this got delivered to me.
Yes.
I was about to eat this before I got on stage. It's right next to me. You want to see how it gets delivered? I just want to ruin McDonald's. This clip right here. Here it is. It's 3 fucking separate things.
Yes.
I am so pissed off right now. It's a McChicken, a Big Mac, and a filet-o-fish.
Dude, it's like the grocery store. You got to check yourself out. Now you got to make your own food. Like, what the
I
hell's
gotta put
going
it
on?
together myself.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
I'm angry.
Like, why can't they put it together?
I assumed that was the whole thing.
That would be the whole thing.
Oh,
I don't know, man.
Yeah. You're probably
I just
better
had
off.
to show that to you.
You're better off.
What was the other one?
You know how you can solve this problem is don't go to McDonald's because it's shite.
That's
Well, I got it delivered to me. I don't drive places.
delivery
McDonald's
man.
delivery. Wow.
Bougie, man.
That actually, I think it's like a blood red moon. The rivers are also red with blood, and McDonald's delivers are 3 of the signs of Armageddon.
I think right before the downfall of Rome, they started having a McDonald's delivery. Like, it was one of the signs.
It is. It was right before the locusts. I believe.
Right before the locusts.
So
I'm glad you shared. I had seen something about that, Jeff. And there's a second sandwich too, isn't there? Like a what is
Surf and
that?
turf.
Surf and turf. Okay.
It was surf and turf, and there's a double crunchy burger which has chicken McNuggets on the bottom.
Well, I hope
So
McDonald's will send us some money for this free advertising that we're doing.
No, they're just
yeah. If you want this, Jesus Christ, I'm gonna eat these while we're talking.
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
isn't
they're
that
still
right,
hot.
Radio 101?
I mean, I thought this would be a great gimmick to show you what it was
Yeah.
like, and instead, it's literally 3 separate sandwiches, and I'm
So-
like, I have to eat all of this.
Are you going to put it together?
No,
Oh,
I'm not getting my hands dirty. That's the whole point. They put it together.
No,
with all
but
the
you'll get your
sauces and
colon
buns.
dirty.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I was trying to get everybody to do a couple minutes to
1 minute.
see what just a minute to 2 minutes, just to test our funny, see what Jeff thinks, because he's probably the guy sitting in the back with everybody, kind of watching it happen. How are you feeling about your journey so far?
I've taken a couple months to try to rewrite some stuff. What I realized when I was talking to you is I was going through some of my old set lists, and I'm like, how did I abandon this? I've got some golden stuff here. So actually it was a benefit, because I was trying to shift from, part of my whole thing is, I was 34 the first time I went on stage. A lot of the successful stand-up comics are 20 years old, 18 years old when they get on stage the first time. 10 years later, they figure it out. Part of the difference is I worked in an office environment. I had to deal with those office politics, all that bullshit. So I thought my act was very much the same as those guys who were 18 and got out of high school and started doing stand-up. I'm like, I need to revamp a little bit to focus on the fact that I'm different, in the fact that, I don't need to talk about my drunkenness. It's a great thing, but I don't need to talk about it. I mean, I can talk about it, but that can't be the focus. Me working in an office for over a decade, moving my way up the corporate ladder, that's going to resonate with the average comedy fan more than just be like, hey, let me tell you about how much I drink or how I sleep with hookers, or it's so I've taken a few months off to kind of revamp and rewrite a few things from when I started, because a lot of it I look at, I'm like, it's kind of hacky. It can get a laugh, but I'm a perfectionist with this. I don't want it to be cheap. I want it to actually be authentic.
It's weird. Some of them, like Lewis Black, he started real late, didn't he? Like in his 50s.
Yeah, Rodney Dangerfield also. I mean, it's not impossible to do it. It's just that if you look at a lot of the juggernauts that we currently look at, the Bill Burrs, the Doug Stanhopes,
Chappelle.
Bert
he was
Kreischer,
young. Yeah.
Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura, good example. They're guys who went to college and then they started doing stand-up. They never actually lived a normal life. They maybe had a 9-to-5 job, working hourly. It wasn't a career. So my thing is, there's a difference there that I should try to actually exploit, not just dive into the normal comedy scene of being a loser who can't exist in society. So I did stand up. Not that that's stand-up comedians, but I feel like in general, that's kind of the way it comes off. Is it's like, oh, I couldn't do an office job, that's why I'm doing this. Me, I was actually highly successful in moving up the ladder. I just hated it. So I chose to stop doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting that people start that young. I mean, I hadn't even thought about that, because I mean, how much life experience do they have to talk about? It's the one. I love good comics. I love things I'm not good at. So like music, comedy. I have the most horrible comic timing ever. But the one I like pretty much I like a lot of different comics, but the ones that I can't stand are the ones that are like, if they're missing an arm, like all their jokes are about they're missing an arm, or if they're like Jewish, it's all about them being Jewish, or if they're like a woman, it's all about them being a woman, or or whatever. It's like that stuff gets tired for me. But other than that,
comedy.
I don't know. I think one of the funniest jokes I ever heard was from a burn victim making fun of being burned.
Okay, I'll make an exception.
I kid you not. He was a veteran. He was in Iraq. He got blown up. Obvious burn victim. He could stand, and he was doing what was that? It was a program for veterans in comedy a few years ago. His joke was basically about the secret signals that people have. Like if you don't know, if you're riding a motorcyclists have like a special hand signal to give each other when they pass each other on the highway. And there might be something like that too for I think for Jeeps. If you have a Jeep, there's a certain hand signal.
It's Jeep wave.
Jeep wave, exactly. And he was saying that burn victims also have a wave too. Most people don't know. Yeah, it's. And just to watch him do that, oh my goodness! I think about that in the shower sometimes, and it just has me going.
Why do you think of a burn victim in the shower?
Yeah, let's explore this, Jason. Let's drill down on this a little bit.
It's just the most natural place. I mean, I don't know what you think about
burn victims
in the shower.
Think of burn victims, Mike.
I don't know, man.
I mean, I guess when you're getting sprayed with water, would be the most natural time to think if they only had this.
I think mostly that's probably where I do most of my crying, and I want to be happy, so that's what I think of.
Because the shower hides the tears.
Yeah,
it does.
No one sees you cry in the shower.
So, come on! Did you see recently? I think he was on America's Got Talent. He's got, is it cerebral palsy?
Oh, like Jerry Jewell.
That wasn't him. It was a different.
Josh Blue.
Josh Blue, exactly.
Why does that name sound familiar?
Probably because he was
He's
on
the comic
America's
with
Got
cerebral
Talent.
palsy.
He's the guy with cerebral palsy. That's a comic.
Smart ass.
Oh my goodness. He apparently played on the Paralympic team for soccer and for a number of years. And he got injured, and he said the coach had the nerve to put him on the disabled list.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, there's some good ones too.
So did he have to get out of his chair to go sit on the bench?
Jesus.
Here we go.
All right. This is where the editing comes in.
Well, but there is a good
Yeah.
point to be made here. The difference between someone who has a real disability, who, like Brad Williams, is a little person,
Yeah.
in case I can't say midget on here.
Well, you just
Or
Midget, 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 midget.
We have high standards here.
don't worry.
Anyways.
Nobody's listening.
No, I know. Why else would I have come on? But you know, he doesn't. He'll make jokes about being a midget, but he doesn't ride it like a victim.
Yeah.
There's a difference between, like you mentioned, some females or other people of different whatever's different about you. They'll ride it as a crutch. Like you should laugh at my joke because I'm not as funny because I'm XYZ.
Right.
Whereas it's different if a guy is like, I've got this problem, but I'm going to make a joke about it. I'm an alcoholic. I can make jokes about it, right?
Yeah. It's
Disability, isn't it?
yeah. It's not that.
Isn't that like one of the prerequisites for comedy?
Yeah. Suicidal thoughts and alcoholism are kind of 1 and 2.
Yeah. It's
Well, then I definitely have a chance.
yeah. It's not like it's not
you
that.
go, Zeus. You're all set.
I don't have a problem with people mentioning stuff. It's just when, like you were saying, like when they just ride it and that's it. It's like one note, you know. Like, it's like that's all they do. That stuff gets tired. Why is there a hand on yours, Jason? You got a hand coming up.
Yeah, it
Oh,
looks
do
like
I?
you guys raised your hands somehow because you guys are both well, my computer's acting
I
up
want
anyway.
somebody to call on me. Please call on me.
Oh, okay. Now I don't see it.
Jason, what's the answer?
What's the question?
Oh, your hand's down. Never mind.
So
Did you
here's
just have to use the bathroom?
here's a question, Jeff, that I'm curious about. So how much of this, and I'm sure it's different for different performers, you know, different comedians, but the writing versus the performing, like, is it 50-50? Is one more than the other? I mean, how many are there comics out there that perform other people's material? Like, there's the writing and there's the doing, because you can have great material and like not be able to deliver it, you know.
That's a good question, and there's not a concrete answer to it.
Gotcha.
Because to me, I'm all about the writing, which is interesting because I have my own podcast and there's no plan.
Mm-hmm.
I just like to not have a plan. I like to go this podcast. I'm just like, whatever happens will happen. I want to come on and just see what happens. But when I do stand up, I like to have a real strict plan. Yes, some people do other people's comedy, and sometimes I think it's by accident, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
Like linear thinking.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, and sometimes I think comedians stretch a little too wide with certain things. So I was actually working a joke where I was talking about, I was making a joke about premature ejaculation. And I
That's
said,
not funny.
Well, not to the sufferer, but I tried to say, you know, my joke was in essence that I tried to practice, but I can't help that I give the world's best hand jobs. And
Nice.
and I heard a joke that really was not even that similar to that from another comedian on his podcast was talking about a premise for a joke. And I'm like, that's too close. And he's famous. So I'm going to abandon that and just, you know, funny idea, but I don't want to be accused of stealing his joke. But I do think by the same token, I think sometimes some comedians love stand-up comedy and love listening to other comics. And some don't listen to any because they know that if they get a little seed of an idea in their head from someone else, and again, there's a lot of alcohol involved and other substances. So that little seed, you might not know where it came from, but it might develop into a great joke. And then you're afraid you might be stealing it from someone else. Even though one thing almost every comic will say is, as long as you make it authentic to yourself, you can't steal a joke.
Mm-hmm.
If you base it on your own life, your own experience, you can't steal a joke because no one else lives your life. Premises are limited. There's only so many premises that you can possibly have before someone else is like, well I've got a similar one.
And if I may, well, two things. First of all, I think I heard a while back they used to talk about Dane Cook was stealing jokes from everybody, and everybody kind of backed off because they started to realize that it was a coincidence. Because, I mean, in essence, we all have, you know, when you're a certain generation. Yeah, Carlos. Well, also, I think Louis C.K. had an issue with him as well. No,
Yeah.
Mencia was the one stealing jokes.
Right, he was literally stealing line for line.
Yeah. But you also got to think, you know, for at least my generation, Jax, you know, we all have kind of those influences that we grew up with. Richard Pryor, Rodney Dangerfield, Richard Jenney, you know, certain, George Carlin, of course. So we kind of grew up with them, and more than likely, if we liked them, our influences come from them. So we're going to digest the stuff that's out there in the zeitgeist and kind of turn it around and make our jokes. And sometimes because of the influences that we had, it's just going to come out that way. You know, that it'll maybe not be the same, but we're all going, oh, that's a tasty tidbit right there. You know what I mean?
Well, right. And even more than the jokes itself, the cadence is actually what sometimes you can steal from other comedians, which I think people are a little oversensitive sometimes to that.
Because Mitch Hedberg sounds like Stephen Wright, but Mitch Hedberg and Stephen Wright are completely different comics.
Right.
Both excellent in their own rights.
Now look, I'm terrible at singing, but I've always thought this is you migrate. So stand-up comedy, I think a lot of times you find the voice you like the best, and you kind of buy into their cadence a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, different comedians have. It is like music to an extent, the way that you deliver a joke, and the tone, the inflection, all that stuff. And I've always, again, maybe this is just me, like I'm terrible at singing, but I've always been like, if I have to sing a song back in the day, even a church song where there's no voice to copy off, I'm going to go with Johnny Cash because I can match that tone a little bit better. Just he doesn't really have a wide range.
Yeah.
As far as vocal.
It's like Lou Reed or something. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So to me, some of that gets overblown where it's like, oh, you're copying their cadence. It's like, well, that's the cadence that I fit into. Now, my problem is my cadence, to be quite honest, in reviewing my stuff, is I'm like all over the place, which is not great because if you want to actually be a successful stand-up, you generally want people to recognize your cadence, your joke types. And that's part of the reason I haven't done stand-up since October. I'm going to start again here in the next probably week. And I've got a show that I can't talk about because it's a private party show at the end of March.
Cool.
So I definitely have to do some open mics to prepare for this. But, you know, it's one of those things where it's like I've got to figure out a nice balance, even if I'm not consistently at the exact same point vocally. I don't want to be completely inconsistent from one joke to another.
You know, that's one thing that you just mentioned as far as like finding a voice or a cadence. With comedians, it's like they kind of create a character or, you know, a cadence, like you said, like a joke type, you know, because they want to be familiar. They want people to be, recognize them. Can you guys think of any comedian that kind of got outside of that and could just deliver any type of joke? I mean, you have like stoner comics, you have like slice of life comics, storyteller comics. You know, in film, which I know a lot more about than comedy, you know, you've got directors that do suspense like Hitchcock. You have directors that do action. But then you have directors like Robert Wise that did it all. He did musicals, he did suspense, he did horror. Like, are there any comparable comedians that do that? I can't think of any, but
I would say that I'm trying to think of one. I mean, Lewis Black is kind of like, he stands out as creating his own, you know, his own way of delivering, you know, rage, everything.
Yeah.
But I don't think so much that, and I'm Jeff, see if you agree with me. I think that quite often more, they don't change the type of humor they do, but they change the media. And when they change the media that they do it in, like Robin Williams would do this manic, you know, hour and a half of just slap nuts funny shit. But then you see him in What Dreams May Come, and he's this brilliant dramatic actor. So, or better yet, Good Will Hunting. But the point being is that I don't think that they can separate I'm just speculating, that they can separate from their humor unless they completely, or they can't compartmentalize their computer, but they can compartmentalize their talent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Robin Williams is a great example with 1 Hour Photo and Insomnia. I don't know if you guys have seen those, but he's a psychopath in both of those movies. And that's the first thought I had is comedic acting can split very far from comedy to drama. So the greatest example I always use is Breaking Bad. Most of the actors in Breaking Bad, which to me is the greatest television drama ever made, Bryan Cranston was a comedic actor. He was in Malcolm in the Middle. He was in Seinfeld. He was in King of Queens. He was a comedic actor. Bob Odenkirk, comedic actor.
Yeah.
Holy cow! Is he?
Bill Burr was in Breaking Bad, right? I mean, like there was a lot of comedic actors. The other thing is, look at even Adam Sandler recently. I don't know if you guys have seen Uncut Gems.
It's a fucked up movie.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it was the furthest thing from a comedy. And look, Adam Sandler was a guy who I thought was a shitty actor who could only play mentally handicapped characters on screen. And all of a sudden, he is playing this guy who gave us a panic attack for an hour and a half. Like that's a movie that's intense. It's great. I mean, you have to be in a mood to watch it.
Yeah, you do.
So, did you ever see this one with it's a really good movie with Ben Stiller, where he plays the guy that created Alf, and that dude was like a heroin addict.
Yeah.
Alf, like the Alf,
the puppet, the show, the big show from the 80s. I want to say it was like Perfect Dark, or
I got it. Okay, I'm
something
writing this
along
one
those
down.
lines.
I don't think I've seen that one.
It was so dark and so good. by the middle of the movie, he's got his baby in the backseat of the car, and he has no veins left to put like heroin into. So the cops come up and pull up on him, and he's got a hypodermic needle sticking out of his neck, and his baby's in the back seat. Like, and Ben Stiller crushed it. Like, it was a good movie. They do it. Tears of a Clown, though, you know? It's like you bring...
Jim Carrey was like that, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
But not in their act so much. So, I mean, these are comics that do... So, Jeff, would you say...
What about Bob Saget?
He could shift gears. I mean, he could do clean
God love
and
Bob
dirty.
Saget.
Yeah, right. No, he would do. I was thinking Carlin later on because he was always like a stoner, and then he started getting more serious and doing like social commentary and stuff like that. But
look at Carlin and his first stuff, like on Johnny Carson, and like I think he was even on like Jack Parr. I think he goes way back there.
Yeah, he's pretty straight laced.
Yeah, he was wearing like tweed coats and hair all combed and looking like he was getting ready to go to a business meeting. There was a big change. But again, I don't think that they changed so much. Thank you. Their comedy, I think they reinvent themselves.
Are there any comics that we can think of that are like what you see is what you get, or are they all kind of an alter ego caricature of themselves?
I think right now, so I think back in the day, they almost all used to be caricatures. They were not themselves. Mm-hmm. Like Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah, he was a character.
Great. They were just characters. Larry the Cable Guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you say what you want, but he was very successful. And that's not him. That's a character he plays.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, I think it's really shifted to more authenticity, where they want someone to talk about their actual life, their actual problems, their actual family. There are very few comics, I think, nowadays who are completely inauthentic.
Mm-hmm.
I think Anthony Jeselnik is one of the last standards of being a completely inauthentic character. And even he started to shift where, like, the end of his special, he actually started talking about his actual life. The first half is making jokes about murdering babies and his family members raping them. And then the second act is like, all right, now I'm going to tell you about my show getting canceled on Comedy Central and this, that, the other. I think authenticity is what people are actually loving right now with comedy. And that's where
they're not living lives, man. They're not living their lives. They're
right.
They're stuck inside. Even comedians are like, for a long time here, they were going to like drive-in theaters and do it in parking lots and all these other places. We're in this weird place where like we're not living our lives, where we're not being social like we were just 3 or 4 years ago. But I mean, even that, you could even take that further back. Our kids haven't been going outside on their own for decades like we did,
Also, I mean, one of the things I love about Chappelle and like his Netflix specials are just amazing. I mean, if I don't have something to watch, like I've watched Sticks and Stones like 27 times. Like if I don't have anything else to do, like I watch that special. And I think, I'm like, why do I like watching this so much? Because what's coming and it's still enjoyable. But I think there's so little authentic, no spin voices in our culture these days, that when someone like a Chappelle just comes out and like starts talking, whether you agree with them or not, it's just refreshing to hear someone state something without having to hedge it and having to couch it to make it, palatable for the masses. And I think people are starved for that.
The beauty of him is he's like a deity in comedy. He left comedy with millions, like tens of millions right there in front of him. All he had to do was keep doing comedy. He said, fuck that, I need my health. And he just like went to Africa and went on safari. And now he just did this recent one, and he's got fuck you money. He's like, I'm gonna tell things that I think are funny. If you don't want to listen to them, that's fine. And he's doing what everybody else does. He's doing that like real taste of real life stuff. You know, shit, even when I was preparing for this and I was going to try and do a minute, I was looking at stuff that's going on in my house. I was like, this is a slice of life. It's what we need right now.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing funnier than your life.
Oh my God. Or sadder.
I was doing a routine on you too.
On what?
On you as well.
I think we're all planning to do a minute on Friends of Zeus, do a minute on Zeus's life.
Yeah, that's what we're
but you guys do that every time I'm not on the show. I hear funny little jokes about me.
No, it is like I said, it I never thought about it that much, but yeah, comedians are it is an act to an extent, you know, for more or less. But I think you're right, Jeff. I think it was something that was more done before. I think it's less now. I think there's less of that.
And I'll say this as far as the state of comedy. One of my jokes, it was a slam dunk laugh, but way better if there were a lot of black people in the crowd. I would make a joke, and this is a joke inside of a joke. I'm talking about me being an alcoholic. So my joke.
Hold on, guys. Mark the time so we can remove this if it's bad.
Okay, no, sorry.
Yeah, mark it. Yeah. Okay. So my joke is, you know, after 9 drinks, I think I'm loquacious, and then I break off and I say, loquacious, by the way, that's an adjective. That's not the name of the latest victim of a police shooting.
Oh, jeez.
Great.
Black people love that joke. White people are usually like, I don't know, was that racist? And I'm like, no, it's not racist. And then I added, this is past the point, but the best one I did was when early in Joe Biden's presidency, he was trying to ban filtered cigarettes. So a big brand that black people smoke is Newports. So I'm like, I didn't check the news recently, but don't worry, he was probably smoking a Newport. Only black people understood that joke, and they loved it. But again, sometimes the white people are like, we need to look around and see if black people are watching before we laugh at even the loquacious joke.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's nothing racist about it. I mean, except for maybe saying that they have more unique names.
How much do you think, do you think comedians, like when and Jeff, I mean, you've done this, but I mean, if you show up and you've got your set, you've got your 30 minutes or whatever, and you're like, and you get up there and like the crowd is way different, like way older, younger, whatever. And you're like, I don't know if they're going to get there. Like, can you shift gears into something else? Or you you just got to rock what you got kind of thing and see where it goes.
Me at this point, I usually rock what I got. However, the good thing with me is generally older and more diverse, non-white. It's actually better for me.
Isn't there a part of, at least with live comedy, that's sort of like an amusement park? I mean, like you get on a roller coaster not to feel comfortable. You get on a roller coaster because you like that feeling in your stomach, you know, when you're like going down the hill. And so, I mean, you know, when you go to a club to see a comedian, you kind of want to be a little uncomfortable. I mean, I think that's part of, I don't know. I mean, it seems like it. That's part of the attraction of it. Yeah.
That's the whole point. That's the whole reason. And I'm not good at it, but that's the whole reason for crowd work, is to make people uncomfortable. I mean, that's what makes crowd work funny. It's not
what's that term? I don't know that term.
When you interact with the crowd.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So if you're like, what do? You know, you make fun of whatever they do. You make jokes about their appearance, whatever. I mean, that's a big part of stand-up. I'm not good at it because I don't like picking on people who maybe aren't good at taking it.
Yeah.
It's an inexperienced thing. Right. And also, by the way, everywhere I've performed, you get the lights in your face so much you can't even see the audience. So you've got to actually pre-scout if you want to point out audience members. because on stage, all you see is blinding light.
Wow.
You don't see. I can see the front row's feet.
But that's about it.
I can't do much with that.
It's funny how themes keep repeating on the show, because last week we were talking about how Jordan Peterson said, in order to think, you have to be offended. Meaning that you have to see all the different sides of an issue. And sometimes they're not going to be pleasant. Sometimes they're gonna bother you. I think it's, for lack of a better term, it's the rhetoric behind it that really is the important thing. If you say something and you mean it, that's one thing. If you say something because it's ironic or you find it to be surreal, that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, I mean, probably we're gonna edit this a little because
No,
man, it's fine. There's no reason.
But I was like,
That was to protect me. I get it.
no. Yes, it was.
Well, context is important, right? So,
It's
I mean,
huge.
yeah, I mean, if you're saying something on a text to a friend or in a club or whatever, it's different than like being in line at Giant Food, telling someone at the checkout line something. I mean, it's a little different.
For instance, when Jason will try and get me to say a certain remark, like whenever we know the other person is in, like at the supermarket or in the 7-Eleven, we'll be like, say this really offensive thing. And then the gag is we do it, but we do it very measured, very quietly, and we try and mix it into other words.
I don't know.
So it's like playing penis at school, right?
Yes. I think the most brilliant one, Zeus was talking, he was at the supermarket getting some meat at the deli or something, and somehow he worked in, and it was smooth. I mean, it was amazing.
That's suspicious that it was smooth, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know how you do that.
It must have, yeah.
Second nature, right?
I don't recall this. I do not recall this, Jason, whom knows what's going on at work recently. That, my friend Jeff, will be getting edited out. But yeah, no, we say just the most abysmal things, but again, it doesn't mean that you mean these things. Like I got a buddy that lives upstairs from me, and he's a black guy, and he says some horrific.
I'm sorry, what was his race? I didn't catch it.
He's a black guy.
Okay.
And
I just wanted to make sure that we confirm that.
Loquacious lives upstairs.
Yes. And he says some horrific stuff, and then he'll be like, and he'll just look at me and be like, and I'm like, sure, whatever. But but we're good, like we, not to get too tangential, but
oh, please.
But again,
yeah, seriously.
That's what we do, Jeff. So
this is our sign for tangents.
I can't see anything. You're all sitting still on my screen, so
he's just going to edit out all the racist things he says. We know that.
But it's again, when I walk down the street, I do the what's up, with everybody. I don't care anything, race, creed, color, what clothes you're wearing. I'm just cool with everybody. Where we hear all that is like coming from somewhere else. It's coming from the news. It's coming from politicians. But man, me, down here on the surface of the planet, I'm just like, everybody's cool. Make a joke. I like a good joke.
Except the Portuguese, man. There's some assholes.
That actually, I will say that the Aboriginals in Australia creep me out, but it's just because they look creepy. It has nothing to do with skin.
So Jeff, we did an episode, like, I don't know, 30 episodes ago, like our favorite comedians. Like, do you have like a top 3 or Mount Rushmore or something like that? Like, who do you like?
I can give you a top 3 probably. Not a Mount Rushmore though, because Mount Rushmore is historical.
Yes. So this would be for yourself. Though. This would be
like my dad from a young age pumped like Richard Pryor, and I'm like, I get it. He's Mount Rushmore. He's not one of my favorites. He did great things. You know, I think Marlon Brando fucked him a lot. So there's that weird accolade. I guess
I've heard that.
Yeah. But as far as my favorite comedians, Doug Stanhope is number 1
Solid.
for me. I could talk about Doug Stanhope for an hour, so I'll move on. If we're going like where I am at the moment, I'm going to have Mark Normand, number 2 probably. He's inconsistent sometimes, but I think he's got the funniest brain. Like he's constantly joking.
He seems like he's always going for it. He's always lobbing something out there to see what's going to stick, and doesn't seem like he's afraid of ever trying anything.
Right, Jason, that's exactly the thing. Is he's just like, I'm going to take my shot. I might miss, but so that's what I'm saying. He's not maybe the most consistent, but he takes I have the utmost respect for a guy who has no fear to try it. Gosh, I said 3. Let me think.
You can think about it. You can think about it. I don't mean to put you on the spot. I think we did pick our favorites. We weren't trying to pick like who we thought were the best, but
I could give you a historical pick, which is probably one of my favorite ones to listen to, which is Robin Williams.
Of course.
He's just an insane. Yeah, I'm jealous of his energy. You know, he'd say anything. One thing that was funny on my podcast, I had a guy who owned and ran a bunch of comedy clubs. And I'm like, oh, was Robin Williams ever there? He's like, yeah, he stole jokes all the time, but he paid people for him. And he didn't mean to steal jokes.
That, yeah.
He literally just was talking with other comedians and he absorbed them and then he said them on stage because he had 0 script. He went on stage and he was just like, let's fly. Let's see what happens. And a lot of times he'd end up saying things that other guys were talking to him about backstage. But no one ever hated him because he paid them. Even if it was just conversation and he took a premise from what they were talking about, he paid them money.
Accountability.
So everyone was like, all right, but he's so much fun to listen to. I mean, and I'm jealous. He's a tornado of funny. It's, he's one of those guys. Now I'll pull it back. Norm Macdonald is also one of those guys.
Yeah.
They died in different circumstances, but both of those guys, it was like, it's so sad because they had so much more to give us comedically.
Norm Macdonald's Burt Reynolds is maybe one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Because it's nothing like Burt Reynolds. That's why it's so hilarious. It's like he's just playing a character and he's just got the name Burt Reynolds. And a lot of people are like, oh, that must have been Burt Reynolds.
Do you know the guy behind me on the screen?
Behind your head?
Yeah.
To his left.
Eddie.
I don't know.
He's one of my favorites. A guy named Eddie Izzard.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So actually, it's funny. I think Jack had to leave. By the way.
Yes, he did.
So Jason and Mike both. I was able to see him through connections that I have, and that dude. If you ever get a chance to see him,
he's amazing.
He's like a Shakespeare of comedy. He's a force. When you go to his show, you don't stop laughing. And he's almost got like a Robin Williams meets Monty Python kind of vibe to him, because he's the king of callbacks.
And absurdist, you know, he can be absurd too, which is like a hard thing to pull off.
And like next level absurd. He's got a bit, you should pull it up sometime, about it's like the cafeteria on the Death Star, and Darth Vader is just like ordering something.
Oh,
what's that?
He's ordering. Darth Vader's ordering something.
Ordering food.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's a piece of art. It's so funny, and he'll do stuff. He'll do his own jokes later on and switch something, and it's as funny or funnier. I mean, there's also, that's what I was going to get at, is that there's also different levels, man. I mean, Louis C.K., Carlin changed censoring, for God's sakes. You know, the 7 dirty words or whatever. Right. But then you got Louis C.K., who the guy writes something new every year. He got decimated by the woke, vitriol, that Me Too, all that's going on. And did he do something wrong? Yes. Did he deserve to lose millions and millions of dollars? I don't know. Maybe he could have done something, a charity, or done something to repair it. But, and then like this guy, and this guy's next level over Louis C.K. as far as I'm concerned. This guy, again, he does the Robin Williams thing. He does brilliant comedy, and then he'll go and, be in Ocean's 11 or Ocean's 12, whichever one he was in, and he'll just pop. He was on that show, The Riches, and not at all like the guy that we met.
The thing that's
he's
cool,
a fascinating guy.
The thing that's cool about Izzard too is he can impersonate animals. So like, if any story he's telling has a dog or a cat or a bird, like he will say something, and he has this like physical humor where he can like become like he can, like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but he can, everything talks in his world, right? Like,
it's also,
oh my God,
tables talk, animals talk, everything has a voice. It's really creative and funny, and it's absurd. He creates this whole little universe onto itself.
And he rocks a mini skirt.
And he rocks a mini skirt. Yeah.
He like, and some of his jokes are so just, they're not these like, slam you with it kind of jokes. Like, one of the funniest things he ever said, that I think it was with you, Mike, was when he was like, yeah, so next year I'm going to stop. I'm going to go into politics. And they're like, well, what do you know about politics? How are you going to be in politics? And he's like, well, I can do more than nothing. And it was like, yeah, bingo. But the guy is also brilliant. He speaks like 7 languages. He does his whole show, in 7 languages. He goes to all the different countries and does it in those languages. And you got to change diction. You have to change, everything about it, and he even talks about that in the show. He's amazing.
Who, and maybe I just missed it, but what's Chris Rock done lately, man? I mean, that guy, I love Chris Rock. I mean, and I don't think he's really done much lately.
I think, wasn't Tambourine the last one?
I think so, yeah. But even that's kind of seemed like a little bit of an afterthought or whatever. But anyway, I'm just curious. I mean, he's got a presence. I mean, he has this thing. He like stalks the stage like a tiger, right? He like moves around, like he's constantly moving. He's got this like whole manner. Mike Birbiglia, he's one of my favorites. Like storyteller. But
Birbiglia is one of the more puzzling ones, and I love him.
Yeah,
and I'm kind of jealous of him because he's one of those guys who. No, again, I'm a guy who gets 5 minutes at a time, right? So if I tell a story and it doesn't have 12 laugh breaks in it, it's miserable on stage.
Yeah,
it was my very first time. I told the funny story. I got laughs at the end. I went 4 minutes getting one laugh.
Wow,
and
that's
then I
hard.
got a couple in the. Yeah, no, I again inexperienced. That's first time doing stand up, right? Birbiglia consistently can go many minutes without making a single joke, but he gets a captive audience. It's kind of, he amazes me because he is funny.
He's engaging.
He tells a delightful story, right? And he gets the audience to buy in. Now, if he had to do a 5-minute set at an open mic,
probably couldn't. Yeah,
it would be the worst comedian who took the stage.
When
maybe I don't know. Maybe he could shift his act. I don't know. But
when he did, and I agree. When he did My Girlfriend's Boyfriend, and I liked the whole thing, and then at the end, the punchline of the entire show and the whole is it's not even verbal, it's physical. When he stands up and he puts, and I'm like, this guy just did a through line and a final joke that's wordless, and I was like, that is amazing. I mean, it was literally just a gesture, and it just floored everybody. It was like fantastic.
See, I wish I had sent you guys, because I sent Zeus something that you guys probably didn't hear, but I wish I had sent you the loquacious joke I talked about earlier, because the one thing about it, the first time I listened to Mike Birbiglia, I listened, I think, on Spotify, so I only heard the audio.
Mm-hmm.
And there were several occasions where I'm like, why are people laughing?
Oh, yeah.
And then I listened to one of my own stand-up sets that I recorded, and I believe it was the loquacious joke where people laughed initially, and then there was a 2-second delay, and then they laughed way harder than they did the first time. So I'm like, well, I definitely did something.
Oh,
I definitely did
an
something.
Expression, a movement.
Exactly.
Something.
Exactly. That made them, and I'm pretty sure it was just a facial expression, like. But there was no video, so I
you don't know what it is. Yeah,
I have no clue. But I'm like, there's so much that goes into just your physicality as well as your word. It's stand-up comedy is such a science. It's like chemistry. Like everything needs, one hydrogen and one oxygen, that doesn't make water.
And the thing is, like, from what you're saying, Jeff, the beauty of it is when it works, it doesn't look like that. It looks effortless. Right. It looks totally natural. And of course, there's a ton of preparation, but the real good ones, it's like, it just looks like they just strolled in and they're just having a chat,
And so I started, I'm not a perfectionist in any aspect of my life. My toilets are not clean.
What?
I mean, they're clean enough, but they're not perfectly spotless. My sink always has dishes in it when I go to bed. But when I listen to my stand-up, that's one thing that, like, I said to Zeus, I'm like, I'm very protective about it because I'm a perfectionist with this, because I don't want half-baked shit, like. And part of it's also, you listen to other stand-ups or talk to other stand-ups who were like, the stuff I did my first 3 years doing stand-up, I would never want that to be out in public.
Wow.
Because it's terrible. Even if I was making money doing it, I wouldn't want it out in the public because it would ruin my reputation. I think that's an exaggeration to an extent.
But still, yeah.
But I love and that's the one thing where it's like, well, I got to go back to the drawing board here. I might have a funny premise. I might even have a couple good punchlines, but I want to go back and make it perfect. The physicality, the tonality, all of it work together. And being a perfectionist in a game that relies heavily along improvisation is difficult. So I should loosen the shackles a little bit on myself, but it's fun to me to try to perfect the impossibly perfect thing.
I feel like, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying with comedy, it's fun. And just from what you're saying, Jeff, it's like the crowd is a huge part of it, right? So, I mean, we have social media. We have, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook Live. I mean, I'm sure there's people doing comedy on that. I don't know. I'm not on that stuff. But it's got to be live. It's got to be in front of people. It's kind of unique in that respect as an art form. I mean, you can do music. I think it's better in front of a crowd, but you can do music on YouTube to a microphone looking in the camera. But you really can't do comedy like that. You need that audience there. It's kind of interesting. It's very intimate in that regard.
It's not a solo act.
No.
I mean, you can be on stage. You might be the only one with a microphone, but you can look at, and again, I don't record as much as I should, but you can look at some acts that I've did in front of, people, 30 to 50 people in the crowd. And the laughter there, even though I might have made better jokes in front of 8 people, the laughter is not going to match. So if you listen to it as a casual observer, you're going to think the one with 50 people is better than the one with 8 people, even though the one with 8 people might be the best set you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah.
It's not if you're listening to me, but
I like to often at work, because I have kind of an acerbic wit at times and can be
you're an acerbic wit.
Anyway, I often when somebody I don't know how you get away with that, and it's like you know your audience. For me, like, I'm not a comedian. I'd like to try it, but knowing your audience is huge. I mean, the best are the ones that do adjust. This is not to say that Chappelle is not the best, but he doesn't adjust because that's part of what he wants to do. He wants to shake things up a little. And good, we need people to shake things up. Lenny Bruce, holy shit. Anybody ever heard the To Perform an Unnatural Act bit by him? Hey Lone Ranger, I think it's called. It's brilliant. But this was like, I don't know what, 50s, 60s when he was in his prime. And he was talking about the Lone Ranger banging his horse. Hilarious. It's a hilarious bit. It's like 10 minutes. And it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But did he know his audience? Probably not, because he didn't really become famous until much later. And with him, it's more looking back at what he did at the time than.
Yeah, he was very counterculture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was like an S.E. Hinton or a Kerouac, or who's the guy, Fear and Loathing?
Hunter S. Thompson.
Hunter S. Thompson. He was one of those ones that he said, fuck it. And you know what? In some ways, you could actually say that Dave Chappelle is kind of along those lines, because he doesn't give a single fuck. He just does it. He says, I got something to say. Rogan will say some stuff. I mean, yeah. I think he's a little more mild because he's got 500 million on the line, but anybody that doesn't respect that, they're kind of assholes.
Adam Carolla is a good one.
He kind of killed his career, didn't he?
No, he still has a daily podcast. He's making millions.
He's doing very well.
Good
because he doesn't apologize. That's one thing I learned. Actually, one of the best lessons I learned was from Adam Carolla. Never apologize. If you weren't doing something mean-spirited, there's no reason to apologize.
Yeah.
Well, even Stanhope, everybody that knows him, like Rogan, obviously, weren't they on the Man Show at the same time? Weren't they the ones?
They took over for Adam Carolla and Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Stanhope and Rogan.
And Stanhope, everybody that ever talks about him, they love the guy. Like, it seems to me that he's a very nice guy. He gets the poison out, is what I like to call it. He says
he's one of the nicest guys in the world. A story with Stanhope, I'll tell you. The only reason I ever started doing stand-up and started doing my own podcast was because Doug Stanhope. I emailed. I had a bug. I wanted to make something, and I was writing a dark comedy. And the problem with it was dark, but it wasn't comedy at all. It was just dark. So I emailed Doug Stanhope. I'm like, you're a master of dark comedy. What should I do? And I emailed this guy, very famous comedian. I'm a nobody. Within 30 minutes, he replied to me.
Wow.
And the first thing he said was, I'm assuming a pretty cookie cutter line where he's like, you're trying to write. Who the fuck do you think you are? You're Jeff fucking Macolino. You're nobody. Nobody wants to hear what you think. And then the next paragraph was, hey, look, what you're writing might be shit. It might be the greatest thing ever. The only advice I can give you is finish it. Do your best and finish it. And at the end of the day, it'll probably end up in a drawer. But every time you open that drawer, you'll smile and you'll have this feeling of accomplishment. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy, my favorite stand-up comedian in the world, responded to my email in a half hour.
Yeah.
And it was just so encouraging. And he comes off a lot of times, especially in his comedy, like he's an asshole. He's the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah, he sounds gracious.
brutal.
Yeah, and he's gracious, which is, very endearing.
So
Yeah, he doesn't think he's worthy.
One of my favorite stories in the meeting Eddie Izzard, I think it was with you, Mike, where he was talking about he was going to start a podcast?
I don't recall. It probably was
Jason.
a few years ago.
So Eddie Izzard, we're all sitting there talking because we got to go back into the green room and chill with him, have a few beers and all that. And he's like, I'm going to be I'm not going to do his accent. He says, I'm going to be starting a podcast. And I cut him off right there. And I go, I'll tell you what, I'll try and find some time for you on mine. And I'll try and show up on yours. And he paused and looked at me incredulously. And then he just kind of giggled about it. And I was like, wow, I just made one of the funniest people ever giggle.
Laugh. Yeah.
I could have been more proud. Yeah, it was pretty neat.
But now wait, is that Jason behind you in that photo?
Yeah.
I'm just now putting this together.
Yes, that's Jason.
Yeah. And then Mike's
Is
got
that
one
you
very
on that
Much more clean cut.
Yeah. How's that?
There you go.
Yeah, and then Mike went with me. It was a whole nother experience, and just the nicest guy. One of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
Very genuine. Yeah.
And we heard the cool thing was we heard funny stories back behind back in the green room, because I share an occupation that his mother had, so we started talking about that, and he went in.
What was that? I don't think Jeff
What
knows.
was that occupation?
Yeah, what did
I don't
you do?
know.
What could it be?
You
I
were a
clean
hooker?
gutters.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
is that slang for something? I'm not hip.
No.
on all that.
Okay, I'm gonna say it because I haven't said it in a while. I'm a nurse, and so his mom was a nurse, and we connected a little bit on that. But yeah, it was really cool. One of my favorite experiences was getting to meet him a couple times. I'd love to do it again. Hopefully, I'll get to. Nice guy.
Psych nurse.
Psych nurse.
Psych nurse.
You ruined it. Come on.
We had this huge setup.
Jason,
The
all
joke-
I'm saying,
the joke, Jeff.
from here up, you kind of look like Drew Brees. Like that picture, I'm like, does he have a big birthmark here? No.
Says the Saints fan. Yep.
Well, that's a compliment.
I know.
obviously.
It's no
I
downside.
appreciate it. I'll take it.
I think
Maybe I should
Jason-
introduce myself at bars that way.
Drew Brees.
You just need a whole
I think-
big thing on one of these cheeks.
I think Jason has more of a Bradley Cooper look to him.
Oh,
Oh, I can see that. I was just looking, when your head was blocking almost all of it, I'm like, those eyes, they look like it could be Drew's. And
Except that he's like
hair
4 feet taller than Drew Brees.
Well, yeah.
Speaking
Aren't we all?
Speaking of Bradley Cooper, I got to throw this in there because we'll never ever talk about it. But I went to see that movie Licorice Pizza, the Paul Anderson movie. Was it Paul Anderson? Anyway, Bradley Cooper.
Paul Wes
Not Wes.
Damn it.
Paul Thomas Anderson something. The guy that did Boogie Nights. Anyway, whole point is near the end of the movie, Bradley Cooper has like a role that's like 4 minutes of screen time. It is freaking hilarious. Like it. Anyway, I'm just saying when it comes on Netflix or whenever, you don't have to watch the whole movie, but go to the end, watch the Bradley Cooper part. It's awesome. You don't even need to know what the movie's about. Like, just watch him. He's amazing.
Not that we
So
haven't
I
been
watch
taken,
porn.
but
Just fast forward to the end.
Exactly. Exactly. Just right to the end.
they're all in the same. Daddy issues.
I only need 35 seconds. I don't need fucking 2 hours.
So Bradley Cooper, because I always thought he was kind of a joke, just pretty boy. He wasn't going to be, anything big. And it's really interesting because I saw him on, what is it, in the Actors Theater with that James Lipton. Is that it?
James Lipton, yeah.
And he actually, like, I guess he's like a really well-trained actor. Like Lipton hugged him and cried. Like they both cried because Lipton had trained him. I don't know if you guys know that, but I guess Lipton's like a drama instructor.
Probably.
And yeah, Bradley, but then you look at his filmography and he's done everything.
I've always had a problem with Bradley Cooper because the first time I saw him was on that show Alias, and he's this like spindly nerd character, like wearing glasses, just super nerdy, not attractive at all. And then like within 2 years, he was like the super hot guy on A-Team. And I'm like,
so
what the fuck? This dude was nerdy. What the hell?
When exactly did you find that you were attracted to Bradley Cooper?
Yeah, when did that happen?
I mean, I liked him when he was a nerd. When he became hot, on A-Team, I was like, hey, too cliche. I like the nerdy glasses guy.
Well, we got you here. What are your feelings about Henry Cavill?
I knew it was coming. I knew this was coming.
Yeah,
just be careful, Jeff.
Too much like Clark Kent.
Jason, hold back.
I
don't ask me about Chris Hemsworth, or I'm going to be outed as.
Okay, all I'm saying is, all the Olympics should be is Henry Cavill and Chris Hemsworth oiled up in the old Greek style. Wrestling. Completely nude. Just, I don't even know how it ends, but however it ends, it's going to be glorious. That's all it should be.
And you can just fast forward to the end.
Do you mean? Yeah. You mean how it ends?
I just need the last 30 seconds.
Yeah, just the last 30 seconds is all we need.
Yeah, but the last 30 seconds is in Jason's living room where he cries.
I can't help that I give the world's best hand jobs.
Yes. Bringing it all the way back.
See, callbacks.
No, I had a weird experience, to be honest. I should, the movie Tag, right? With John Hamm and Ed Helms, Jeremy Renner.
I don't know that movie. Tag, T-A-G.
I've heard of it.
T-A-G, yeah. It's about a bunch of old guys who play tag one month out of the year. It's a fun movie to watch. But I let my kids watch it, even though it's rated R. And I'm like, they know Ed Helms from The Office and Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye, obviously. John Hamm, they haven't seen him in anything. And I'm just like, they're like, which one's John Hamm? I'm like, he's the really handsome one. They're like, which one's the really handsome one? I'm like, the really handsome one.
The really handsome one.
And they're like, what? Daddy, why are you calling a man handsome? I'm like, well, because John Hamm is gorgeous. I'm like, I don't want to be confusing here, but he's a very handsome man.
He's very handsome.
So Jason and I went and saw Superman, and we were both like, after the movie, I mean, we just feel like Henry Cavill transcends sexuality. Like when he comes running out in the rain, it's like, I just want to lick the rain off of his chest. All jokes aside, he's just a handsome man. He's a man that a guy can say is handsome, and you can't argue because
Jeff, I gotta tell you something.
I'm more attracted to John Hamm though.
I'm sorry. I think earlier today I said that Henry Cavill wasn't just handsome; he's a man I would happily allow to teach me how to breathe through my nose.
And then I think I followed that up with, he could teach me how to breathe through a pillow. Okay.
This is where every episode goes to, Jeff. Like if we took all the comments about Henry Cavill from all of our episodes, it would be like 2 hours long. It would be like a super cut.
We could do a whole Henry Cavill snippets episode. I'm really offended because breathing through a pillow, Jason and I laughed our asses off before. You guys just
I think it's great. I think it's
very
fantastic. Funny. Yeah.
I'd still fuck John Hamm first, but that's just me. It's more elegant, classy. I think it's Mad Men.
He's got the jaw.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the suit.
The voice too. The voice. Ugh.
I think at this point, Jack
I just jizzed in my pants a little bit.
Yeah. I think we need to wrap it up.
We're shooting from the head up, right?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, man, Jeff. Yeah. So at this point, Jack would normally say it's time to wrap things up. But dude, it was great having you on.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you're a really good addition. Anytime you want to come back on, we do tend to lean, more. You know what? Let's wrap it up and we'll talk in a second here. So,
and one thing I will say, one thing real quick. So next week and the week after, we're doing the Ancient Aliens extravaganza episodes. The first episode will be Ancient Civilizations. The second episode will be Aliens Among Us in the Present Day. So tune in. And Jeff, you're welcome to tune into that too. But
absolutely, man, you're definitely welcome.
Or come on, even if you want to.
I will just let you guys know, because the show is going so well, I saved you from listening to my 1 minute. So
we'll post it. Why don't we post our stories in the comments after we post this? I'll type it up and put yours in. All right. Take care, guys.
Go ahead and stop the recording, but let's not go anywhere yet.
Okay. Take care. Do I hit end?
Yeah, just hit or stop. If you
hit stop on the bottom, yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Where it says record, there should be a pause stop button.
Where is this thing?